Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to be looking at the McFarlane DC Multiverse Armored Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, and this is the blue edition. I had read about people finding this guy at Target, still been hitting up Target for the past few days, and bam, found mine. Took him to the front, he rang up item not found. The people that worked there tried to not let me get him. They tried to tell me he was street dated, and that is not the case. He is not street dated, he is simply just not in the system at all. Ended up showing them the armored version on their app. He was sold out, but that was enough to convince them to let me buy this guy. So here he is. The armored Batman is a fantastic figure. Big, bulky armored Batman, but he's not exactly accurate to the comic colors. This one is a little bit more accurate. So let's go ahead and check out the packaging. As you can see at the top, 22 moving parts, McFarlane toys, ages 12 plus, DC Multiverse Armored Batman. Here he is in the package. He has a display stand, a collector's card, and then 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 interchangeable hands. I noticed one of his hands is a trigger finger. He was probably supposed to come with his sonic gun from the comic, but of course, Warner Brothers has this policy. No officially licensed DC figures can come with guns at all. Really annoying, even sci-fi guns, like the sonic gun he should have come with. One side of the package, Armored Batman from Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Blue Edition. Armored Batman. At the bottom, got a bunch of credits, and there is a barcode, in case that helps anybody. The backside, here's Armored Batman posed up, and here are a bunch of other recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures you should check out. A couple of real new ones, Year 2 Batman, and Gotham Knights Nightwing and Red Hood. Looking forward to having those as well. So with no further ado, let's open them up. And of course, I did pick up 2 of these guys. One of which to open and enjoy, and one to keep unopened in my complete 6 and 7 inch unopened Batman action figure collection. Now at the second store where I found this guy, I ended up bringing up the regular Armored Batman, and then leaving him behind and buying this one. Once again, he is not street dated, he is simply not in the system at all. Here he is, next to the standard version of the Armored Batman, and here he is, next to Mattel's DC Multiverse version of the blue Armored Batman. This one comes with a sonic gun, and that should work good for the McFarlane version. Alright, now that we have this figure out of the package, here he is with all his accessories laid out. He does come with a display stand, a collector's card, and 2 alternate hands, totaling 4 interchangeable hands. One thing he's missing is sort of a sonic gun. Batman typically fights Superman. He has a sort of sonic wave gun in the final battle. This figure comes with a gripping hand with a trigger finger. I imagine he was originally supposed to come with that, but Warner Brothers has this no-gun mandate. No officially licensed DC figures can come with guns of any kind, even a sci-fi type gun like he had. But we're getting a little out of the weeds here. Let's talk about and check out the actual figure. So this is Batman from The Dark Knight Returns in his armored suit where he fought Superman at the end of the book. This is the second version McFarlane has made. McFarlane made a gray version earlier. That one really reminded me of Ben Affleck's armored suit in Batman vs Superman. Now this one here is a little bit more comic accurate. I remember way back when the first one came out, there were images on Instagram of both colors. I just assumed this one would be in a future 2-pack. I also wanted to mention how they just revealed this Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman Blue Edition versus Superman 2-pack. Now, it's a very cool 2-pack, but it's also very annoying. It looks like it's 100% the same Armored Batman figure that we have in front of you right now. In addition to that, Superman looked to be the same as a single release. Usually in their 2-packs, at least one of the figures has something different, a different head, different paint job. I'll buy it, but I'm not excited to get 2 of the same figures again. Drop me a line in the comments below if you guys are aware of any changes in that 2-pack. I'd be very interested. I really enjoyed the first Armored Batman release. It's definitely in the top half of the McFarlane figures. Giant, bulky Batman, but he moves pretty good and looks great. So let's take a look at this one. Start with his head here. Armored cowl, kind of metallic, looking nice. Angry frown on his face, white lenses in the eyes. Giant armored body, one solid piece. Classic yellow utility belt. That's some differences with this release. Looks like a seal jointed elbow. The cape looks fantastic. Look at all that detail. Very well done, McFarlane. Double jointed knees here. armor all over his legs. Then he has those cleated shoes. I remember that iconic panel where he's kicking Superman in the face. Overall, fantastic figure. More comic accurate than the other one. They're both pretty nice. They have their pros and cons. And then, just a closer look at his face or head sculpt. And here's the figure broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's take a look at his accessories, and let's start with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typical McFarlane stand. Black perfect circle, says DC at the bottom, one peg for the peg holes on his feet, very thin, very basic. Here's his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Batman in his armored suit, the figure posed up in an alleyway with some rubble. Armored Batman from Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Blue Edition. On the back, there's a description. If you want to read that, go ahead and pause now. And here's the original Armored Batman's collector's card next to the Blue Editions. Now let's take a look at his hands. He has a total of 4 of them. One gripping hand with a trigger finger, one fisted hand, and then 2 semi-open hands. Here he is with his first pair of hands. His right hand is a trigger finger gripping hand, and his left hand is a fisted hand. And here's his other pair of hands. These are some semi-open hands. They could probably grip something rather large. An accessory he should have come with, and I think he was originally going to come with. Why else would he have the trigger finger hand? Would be the sort of sonic gun. There are 2 examples in front of you. The bottom one is from the Mattel DC Multiverse figure, and the top one is from a Batman vs. Superman 6-inch basic figure. This one will fit in the hand a little bit better. It's a little bit bigger. Scales a little bit better with the McFarlane figure. Here's Batman holding and pointing the sonic gun at you. He can hold the other one, but it doesn't look nearly as good. Now that we've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and his accessories, now let's check out his height. From bottom to top of his head, he's standing at about 7.75 inches tall, which can translate to about 19.5 centimeters. Now let's look at his articulation. Starting with his head here, of course, it can rotate from side to side, it can look up and down about that far, it can tilt his head from one side to the other, give him a good amount of personality. Shoulders on a ball joint, shoulder pad soft, it goes right over the shoulder, about a 90-degree bend, up, down, around, all that good stuff. He does have that McFarlane butterfly joint between the shoulder and chest area. Increase the range of motion there. Looks like no bicep cut. Single jointed elbow with rotation. His wrist here can rotate. It's going to be hinged as well, but you can barely do anything with that. Torso's one solid piece. His waist can rotate forward and back. Ball joint there. His legs can only go out about this far. Rotation minimal. Forward about that much. Back about that much. Double jointed knees below that. And his ankle here is forward and back. Rotate, tilt, rock, and toe articulation. Love those cleats. Now I wanted to look at all the differences between the first Armored Batman release and the second. All the dark gray armored parts on him are blue on here. The gray here is a lot lighter underneath the armor. The belt is gray here, yellow here. They're both fantastic sculpts. This one kind of has more of a realism vibe to it, and this one's more comic accurate. And speaking of the suit, I love how there's different texture in the different parts of the suit. It's like he has a cloth suit with armor pieces on top. Very well done. Here's Batman holding his sonic gun in the streets of Gotham City, preparing for his final fight with Superman. Next, I'm going to show a reenactment of that final fight from the Dark Knight Returns comic that I shot quite a while ago with the original Armored Batman. Here's Batman luring and taunting Superman with his bat signal, trying to get him to come out, face him. And sometimes it's be careful what you wish for. Superman shows up. This is a DC Direct, 7-inch scale, large Dark Knight Returns Superman, and you can see this Dark Knight Returns Armored Batman is just towering over him. Batman kicks off the fight by sending tons of volts of electricity through Superman's head. And Batman has tons of tricks up his sleeve. Here he is shooting his sonic weapon at Superman. Here's Batman getting the upper hand on Superman, just kicking him in the face with his cleats. But at this point, Superman's had enough. He's not taking any more of this shit. He just rips off Batman's mask and says enough's enough. And as Superman is looking over a beaten Batman, at least that's what he thinks, he doesn't know what's around the corner. Little does he know that there's a one-armed Oliver Queen out for revenge on the fire escape. Oliver Queen very happily shoots that kryptonite arrow towards Superman. Superman instinctively catches the kryptonite arrow, not realizing what's happening. And then we get that absolutely awesome quote from Batman. "I didn't have to go easy on you. A different binding agent, a stronger mix. I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you." And then Batman has his heart attack and dies right in front of Superman. And here's the rest of my Dark Knight Returns collection. We've got a whole bunch of different Batman and Robin figures. Here's the newest one in the middle. Above that, we've got the Mutant Leader and the Mutant Gang. And above that, the Sons of Batman. Now let's check them out, next to some other action figures. Starting off with some other McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here's the original dark gray armored Batman, next to the blue edition. This is the start of McFarlane's Dark Knight Returns collection. It seems like every company that makes Batman figures has to do the Dark Knight Returns. McFarlane just dipped their foot into the water with the original armored Batman release. Very soon we're going to get a full wave of Dark Knight Returns figures. Batman, Robin, Joker, Superman, and then collect to build a horse. I hope McFarlane also gives us the Mutant Leader eventually. Here's the Dark Knight Returns armored Batman, next to a couple of other McFarlane Batman figures in armored suits. These are a couple of Batman in Hellbat armor figures. Here's Batman in his armored suit, next to a couple of Superman in his Unchained armor figures. Here he is, next to several different Batman figures, also based off the comics. Then, next to several different Batman figures from various forms of media. Here's Batman, next to Devastator and Merciless. A couple of large, oversized villains I could see him using this armored suit to fight. Now let's check him out. Next to some recently released McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. Here he is, next to a couple of Lex Luthor figures. Then, next to Lobo and Superboy Prime. And here he is, next to the Birds of Prey Harley Quinn and the Mortal Kombat 11 Joker. Here's Batman, next to a couple of McFarlane Mega Figure Swamp Things. Here he is, next to the recently released 3 Joker's Wave. Still trying to track down Batman. Then, next to Gotham Knights, Red Hood and Nightwing. Here's the armored Batman, next to the Year 2 Batman. Now let's check him out, next to some other Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Here he is, with all of my DC Direct Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. The only one I'm missing is from a 2-pack, and he had the utility belt on his thigh. Now DC Direct never made an armored Batman for the Dark Knight Returns. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 Collective Dark Knight Returns Batman figures. Mezco also didn't make an armored Batman for the Dark Knight Returns. Then, next to the Mafex Dark Knight Returns Batman figures, they also haven't made an armored Batman for the Dark Knight Returns, but there is one coming very soon from them. And here, next to the Mattel Dark Knight Returns Batman figures, Mattel is pretty much the only other company that's given us an armored Dark Knight Returns Batman. I just wanted to check out the differences between the Mattel and the McFarlane versions of the armored Batman. A lot of similarities, both based off the comic. Starting with the heads here, this one has that sort of signature Dark Knight Returns look. Wide, angry mouth. This one looks a little more normal. The chest piece, big barrel on this guy. Also one piece here, a little more subtle. Arms, you can see some similarities. Belt, yellow utility belt, pouches. Legs, got the armor with the fins. They both have that. And the cleated boots, signature for the armored suit for the Dark Knight Returns. Which one do you guys like better? This one kind of gives me more of a Dark Knight Returns vibe, but I definitely like this figure better. I wanted to see how this McFarlane armored Batman would look with the Mattel DC Multiverse unmasked old Bruce Wayne head. This came with a Walgreens exclusive flash for the Dark Knight sequel. It actually looks really good and scales up nicely with this guy. Here's this Armored Batman next to all the different Dark Knight Returns Carrie Kelly Robins that they've made. The three on the left are from DC Direct, and on the right from Mattel and Mafex. Now let's check them out next to some Armored Batman figures from Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. That suit was obviously heavily inspired by the Dark Knight Returns big, bulky armored bat suit that he fights Superman with. Here he is, next to the DC Collectibles, DC Films Armored Batman. Then, next to the Mezco 112 Collective version. And here, next to the Mafex version. And now, next to all the different Mattel variations. On the left, we have the Mattel DC Multiverse version, and on the right, several different Mattel basic versions. They've made that fiery version ridiculous. Here he is, next to a NECA Armored Batman from Batman vs. Predator. Here's this McFarlane Armored Batman, next to the DC Collectibles Batman in his Thrasher suit, one of the largest Armored Batman figures they make. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, to see how he fits in, both scale and style-wise, in case you don't know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane figure, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect and work my way smaller, and I'm going to include as many Batman figures as I can during these comparisons. Since we already checked him out, next to a bunch of different McFarlane Batman figures, here he is with some other McFarlane figures, in front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane toys, all 7-inch scale. Then, next to some more McFarlane toys, these are from different various video game properties. And now, next to some Jack-specific wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some DST, or Diamond Select toys. And here he is, next to some DC Direct and DC Collectibles Batman figures. And here, next to some NECA Batman figures. Then, next to some Mattel wrestling figures. And now, next to some Jazzwares AEW wrestling figures. And here he is, next to some Mezco 112 Collective Batman figures. Then, next to some Mattel DC Universe Classics and Multiverse Batman figures. And here he is, with some Mafex Batman figures. Then, next to some Hasbro Marvel Legends. And here he is, next to some SH Figure Arts Batman figures. And finally, next to some Jazzwares Fortnite figures. Overall, this is a very nice Batman figure. I kind of think I prefer the first Armored Batman release. Yes, the colors are not accurate for the Dark Knight Returns. I prefer this one as far as an interpretation of the Dark Knight Returns Batman. But as far as an action figure, I think I prefer the other one. A little bit darker, a little bit more grounded in realism, reminds me of the film version. Either way, they're both very nice figures. They're giant, really tall. The sculpted detail is excellent. That cape is great. His accessories are pretty much non-existent. He only has an extra pair of hands. Should have had a sonic gun. His articulation, everything you'd expect from a McFarlane DC Multiverse figure. Does have single jointed elbows, but it's not a big deal. Big bulky armored suit doesn't have to be super articulated. If I were to rate this guy, probably going to give him an 8 out of 10. Pretty strong rating for a pretty strong figure. So this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate when you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.